Good afternoon, guys. Mr. Miyakwabu here. Um, I will upload this video on Google Classroom. So this is SPP. We are going to be talking about work equipment, topic here, work equipment, right? So, work equipment. So before we talk about work equipment, we need to also talk about the fact that there's something called manual handling. And this manual handling is saying when you are dealing with equipment, when you are dealing with workers who have to do work with using equipment, there is some interaction between the workers and the equipment or the tools that they're using. And manual handling is another thing. And this manual handling, it's particularly it is particularly dangerous, and therefore it needs to be given special attention, right? So that is why we are going to talk about manual handling. So manual handling is simply defined as basically moving a load by human effort alone. Whether you are transporting that load, whether you are moving that load, whether you are supporting that load. Load anything that you can be carrying. It can be anything really that represents a load. Doing it by human effort alone. To support that load, to move that load, to transport that load. And that movement, or that supporting, or that transporting can be applied directly by you applying your hands directly on the load, or you can do it indirectly by using the aids. Aids, they come in the form of ropes and levers. A lever, something like a crowbar. You can use a crowbar. You can use so many things to the load, right? So that's what manual handling is all about. And manual handling, mainly it involves pushing loads, pulling those loads, carrying those loads, right? Either on your head, on your back, or whatever, by your hands, moving those loads, using bodily force and body lifting alone, right? So that's what manual handling. So we have hazards. It's a manual handling. Remember, a hazard is anything that has the potential to cause harm. So by that moving and transporting of those loads, there's that chance. You can injure yourself. You can snap something. You can break something. You can scratch something. You can be punctured by something. So that's basically it. So the hazards of manual handling, we have what? We have lifting heavy loads, which can cause back injury, right? Also, your back can snap. We have poor posture. Poor posture, we're talking about what? The sitting position and the standing position, especially the sitting position. In awkward postures, in an awkward way, whereby you like normally you see this in students when they speak, and I mean people, when they spend a long time sitting down in a sitting position, you find that they get to a point whereby it gets uncomfortable, and then they start sitting in awkward positions. Poor lifting technique. This is a technique when you are lifting something up. Dropping a load resulting in foot injury. Like it's common. Like right? And then you end up dropping that particular load. Lifting sharp objects, right? Lifting hot or cold loads. How to imagine that like it happens with the mostly the and metal containers. Why and then or you can leave it. So the injuries that cause manual handling, these injuries they fall mainly into two groups. These injuries, they can either be acute. Acute means immediate, right? They can either be acute, immediate, or they can be chronic. Chronic means they are long term. They detail back. So acute injuries, normally they lead to sickness and sick leave. Due to manual handling, and I about an injury from manual handling, really an acute injury. In injuries that exist, o hella a fiwa bo di sick leave, o hella a fiwa bo the resting period go spatela. But the chronic is they build up over time, they accumulate over time. You get a little bit of damage, you get a little bit of damage, a little bit of damage, that after some time you have a bigger damage to deal with. And we have the guides about arthritis, spinal disorders. Arthritis ke gona mo ithala ba sa di bagolo bana bagolo ba complain ntse ba re le takalami mangwalami no ka, those kind of things ke tsone tse they fall under arthritis, right? So example study injury. Examples, those were the types. Now the examples under the types, right? We have muscular strains and sprains. Muscular strain ke ha muscle o gogega beyond its stretching capacity. Remember, the muscle is the elastic, right? That's why you can stretch, you can bend and do what? The elastic. But hela ya ka rubber ile elastic, rubber band. Hona le high elasticity at hona le high helelante, right? So the muscles on the dinta, then elastic capability, but elastic capability at hona le helelante. So if you overstretch them, they snap, and that's called a sprain. That's called a muscular sprain. A muscular strain ke ga o babalela tsone di muscle le connecting tissue. The connecting tissue di habedi. We have ligaments and tendons. So go le gantsi di strain le di sprain di iragala on tendons and on ligaments. Okay, misiga le ha ke tsone mo go bitsa go teng ka Setswana. But these things di nna mo marapo, right? And then we have back injuries, right? Mo tamo motho re ke bola ke mokwate mo botho, this and this, right? Things like under back injuries, we have things like lumbago and things like sciatica. Sciatica is a condition or pain. You feel pain, it travels, right? Pain that it travels from the lower regions here, rather from the higher regions here to the lower regions of the leg. Go to the pain that it's travel. We have trapped nerve. Trapped nerve is basically whereby the spine, right? The spine is a rap. The spinal cord, right? The spine in a rapa, thoracic, the nerves, the controller different parts of the body, or from your eyes, your lips, everything else. The branch from Munyazan, right? So on a space. So the because when the disc like and then cause a pain. The one pain, you feel a pain and condition here, you manual handling. If someone is suffering, a worker suffering from this condition, I bet the same worker then I berka manual handling, right? I handle the load using human effort. As he or she is bending like this, and because your back is what supports your structure, your whole structure. The pain in the worst. Hernia basically means a rupture of the body cavity. Especially moment pain, right? Due to sudden movements. And the contents of the cuts, the bruises, and abrasions. The cuts exactly what is a cut? It's just a cut, like or something. Bruising, abrasion, the fractures. The fractures so they are the fracture. I think you must have covered this from accident. We have simple fractures, we have complex fractures, we have all kinds of fractures. There's another thing, work-related upper limb disorder. So is the upper limb. Is the lower limb. So upper torso, the lower torso. Upper limb, the lower limb. So work-related upper limb disorders, the condition, the related to manual handling, immediately on the upper region of the body. Okay? And rheumatism, whereby you feel pain, a pain, severe pain. The kind of pain when you have you can't move, you can pain here in the mamangoleng, anywhere where there's a joint in your body, rheumatism, right? So, how are we supposed to handle manual handling in health and safety? Number one, the control measures. Avoid manual handling, right? If you're ever to do a task, any task, whatever task it may be, whatever task it is, if you're ever to do a task, and that task you don't have the tools to do it or the equipment to help you do it, in we do manually. Avoid that. If it's possible, avoid that. Right? Avoid that. Because avoid manual handling so far as is reasonably practicable. Right? Given the circumstances still you find yourself in. If it's possible, avoid it at all. Avoiding means don't do it. Don't do manual handling at all. Right? Because you'll be literally eliminating the risk of you having to deal with all those injuries that we are talking about. When you start handling load manually, you are pre-exposing yourself. You are literally exposing yourself to those dangers. However, how possible, redesign the task. Redesign how you are going to move those loads. Redesign how you are going to carry those loads, how you are going to transport those loads. Are you going to bring in machinery? Are you going to bring in lifting aids? Are you going to keep your load to handle directly or indirectly with the levers and ropes and lifting aids? Redesign the task. Okay, fine. What is the task that they're doing? What are they lifting? What is the nature of the load? Is it hot? Is it cold? How far is the distance from the truck to wherever they're going? Or more? And how many people are involved in this? Is it one person? Is it two people? Is it three people? Are these women? Are these men? Or more? What can you give them as an aid to use? Do they need a pallet truck? Do they need a lever? What kind of tool can they use to assist them in handling that load? By using these tools, you are reducing the risks. If manual handling is unavoidable, well, you have to do it. The first thing that you do a risk assessment of that. You look at those things. These are factors that you consider when you are carrying out a risk assessment, your manual handling. During that risk assessment, your manual handling, these are some of the factors that you consider. So, in order to reduce the risk of injury from these operations, you have to try to use mechanical aids, right? Kind of mechanical handling rather than those lifting tools, which will make which will improve the task itself and the interaction between the worker and the task and the environment, which effectively reduces the risk that is associated with such an operation. So, risk assessment, manual handling. We look at basically 4 things under risk assessment, manual handling. The steps of risk assessment, those 5 steps. General risk assessment, same thing. But there are things that you need to when you are dealing with manual handling. So these are the 4 main things that you need to look at. You look at the task itself, the manual handling itself. What are they handling? What are they handling? What are they doing? For how long? The task itself. You look at the load that they are handling in the task. You look at the work environment, where they are conducting this task and are handling this particular load. How is the place like? How is the configuration of that particular place? And you consider the capability of the individual or individuals involved in handling that or in conducting that task. So 4 things: the task, the load, the work environment, and the capability. The capability we are talking about: mental capability, physical capability. Because remember, manual handling is moving a load by human effort alone, right? Remember that. So under the task, what do we look at under the task? These are the questions that we need to ask under the task. As we are conducting our risk assessment, you look at this. Is the load held or manipulated a distance from the track? How far is the distance, right? How far is the distance from the track to where they need to put the load? Is good posture being used? Is a good lifting technique being used? Are they bending the right way? Are they standing up the right way, right? Are they twisting the right way? Are the distances too long for the load? Right? Are the distances excessive? Is there excessive pulling and pushing? a load e gogwa thata kana e khurumediwa thata, right? The surface where they will be pulling this thing or pushing this thing. How is the surface like, right? And what kind of, rather, is there a risk of sudden movement? I want a chance. These guys, these who are handling this thing, one sudden movement, like maybe somebody is handling a load, and then they have to adjust quickly. Is there a risk of that? What about the frequency? How long, like how often do they have to go from there and back to the truck, from there and back to the truck? How often? The frequency. Like they go there 40 times, 20 times, 10 times, 5 times. For how long? Right? Only the rest period in between, as they will be moving up and down. Is the rate of work, the pace, is it an imposed pace? The supervisor or the manager or the big guy or the big woman has imposed on them, or no? Are they working under pressure? The pace is a steady pace. This is a safe pace. It doesn't put us under pressure. How are the loads being handled? Are they handling these loads from a sitting position or from a standing position? And how many people will they be involved in this task? Who will be handling the load? And then we look at the factor, the load itself. These are the questions that we ask. Is the load too heavy? Is the load too bulky and unwieldy? That load. Is it too difficult to grasp? Grasp like using your hand, right? The contents that load your thing. I get a mover. Mote. I load that thing, is it sharp? I kilo de rebohali mukarmutai imoseki. I load that there hisa can it's too hot or too cold. Is the load stable? I can mutai so some arguments with the halas meditataran, how do you say some or what? Those are the questions that you ask under the load. The work environment, these are the questions that you ask. Remember, this is risk assessment. You're doing risk assessment here. Look at how the task. Whatever those questions. Those questions, they help you identify the hazards and the risks that come from that. Okay? This is it would be a JSA, sort of. It would be a job safety analysis, so to speak. A hazard operation, whatever, plan or analysis, so to speak. The working environment, these are the questions that you ask. Our space is see enough. Handle those loads. So can help the box such that the space that is there is enough for them to be able to practice good posture. The floor, or the floor is about the floor is a floor at the uneven. The floor will go to a higher step. It's from this level to this level. It's from the higher level to a lower level. Alright? Some buildings what you call this wooden flooring. Modern floor the plank. And we call it a non-stable floor. Maybe planks are crack and things like that. Is the floor stable? These are some of the things that you look at. The floor surface is variation in the floor surfaces. You look at extreme temperatures. Is it too hot in there or is it too cold in there? Okay? You look at the humidity. Why humidity? Remember, humidity is right? Like the amount of moisture in the air that you are breathing, right? Like right now. There's a certain amount of air, rather, there's a certain amount of water or water vapor or moisture in this air that I'm breathing right now. So humidity will talk a why, because if you have too much humidity, remember, humidity can make 20 degrees to feel like 30 degrees. Humidity can make 30 to feel like 60. Okay? Heat stress conditions, recovery, right? So you consider that. You look at ventilation issues. And things like that. Are there gusts of wind? Okay? And the lighting, especially in a warehouse. If it's a warehouse where you have maybe 100 meters, floor space, 100 square meters. Imagine where you have to walk 100, walking in distance 100 meters in one building. The distribution of light in such a building is more talk about the light inadequate because more motho gona go tripa gona go relela gona go tripa gona go khupa sengala go bega sengwe simply because nasa bone hearts. Why? Because there's no light. Remember, light has to reflect on the object and bounce into your eye, right? So poor lighting conditions, you consider that. Well, how is the lighting like? And then you look at the individual factor now. Do you know in the work environment? These are the questions that you answer, that you ask under the individual. Risk assessment. Does the task require the individual to have unusual strength, to have unusual height, where the person has to be so strong to lift that thing? Imagine lifting 50 kg of like cement. That's a task. It requires not just strength, but so many things. So they're unusual. Are the workers who involved, are they pregnant? Is there possibility pregnant? Because if someone is pregnant, you cannot have someone who's pregnant handling loads as heavy as that. Okay? Does the individual have a health issue? Pre-exposure, okay, to certain risks. And that particular person, involved in the task. Those people, with respect and regards to those people. Okay. The task so those are the things that you consider. Those are the factors that you consider during risk assessment. They are manual handling. The steps 5 is a little easy, right? But those are the factors. These are the things that you look into. Okay. So according to the health safety executive, these are the guys in the UK who are going to health and safety in the United Kingdom. They have a chart in your notes there. I expect you to watch this tutorial, to watch this lesson, looking at your notes, to listen to this lesson, looking at your notes. Okay. And you know there's a table in the body area, in the women, in the men. So the section is a male. We have height, the shoulder height area, elbow height area here, knuckle height area, knuckle ra here, mid leg lower height, weight is recommended for women. You guys should let them come in. You guys should let them here, you guys should let them only elbow height, you guys should let them shoulder height. Which are the recommended weights? So, how can I generally, there's a difference here 2 kg, 2 kilograms between the weights it's about and the weight is about me. Why? Because men, they have a build, a physical build, it's bigger than that of women. Men are generally stronger than women, physically speaking. Okay, so that's why men can lift 2 kilograms more than women. So shoulder height, women can lift 3 to 7 kilograms, the recommended one. This is based on research because they just did a study, but sorry about the weight. For how long can they handle this weight, right, safely? For men, it's 5 to 10 kg at shoulder height. At elbow height, for women, it's 7 to 13 kg, and for men, it's 10 to 20 kg. And for knuckle height, for women, it's 10 to 16 kg. For men, it's 15 to 25 kg. Hela, right? And how can I talk? The weight starting, they are at shoulder height, and they're also smaller at below mangole. So the weight that they in, it's highest at knuckle height. Here, at elbow and at knuckle height. So this is the position in our motor weighting comfortably. But beyond the weights have to be smaller, right? Because so we have, according to the health safety executive, right? The regulation is called L23. It's called good handling technique. So Malawi, Kwaku UK, but we put it here. like I always say, if there's no law in this country, you go to other countries, right? Because after all, this affects every worker, whether there's a law in that country or not. So this good handling technique, in case you are gonna do manual handling, consider this following. Follow the following technique. This will protect you during that manual handling that you are doing. Remember, manual handling is handling a load by human effort alone. All right. So the first thing, but think before you lift. Akanya, look around you. Take your time. Look at the load. Consider yourself. Look at the floor surfaces. Look at the distance. Akanya, keep the load close to your waist as you are lifting it. That load should be in your waist. Adopt a stable position. Make sure you're stable. Right? Your feet. How ensure a good hold on the load. Make sure whatever you are lifting firmly. At the start of the lift, moderate flexion. Bend hoska inyana udirisa mokata. Then your hips hearts, right? And then how basically squat in a squat. Load your way we are going in that squatting position, going down like that, right? And how you flex. You are not supposed to bend your spine. Don't bend your back, because you will hurt your back. Avoid twisting the trunk. The trunk go toward the upper torso here. Avoid twisting this way. Just straight like that, right? Then make sure you're stable, and then you walk straight. And keep your head, right, up like that when you are handling the load. And move smoothly. Don't lift more than you can manage. And make sure load that thing how it's high hit your eye level. Whatever you are lifting, because you need to see go under. And when you put down the load, you put it down in that position again, and then you adjust. Alright? So that is that manual handling. Now we are moving into what is we are moving into our topic now, equipment. But now here we are talking about manually operated load handling equipment. Equipment handle load. Me operate manually. Let me repeat. Equipment to somebody who swells the load, who handle the load. Me equipment operate it's manual. People have to apply a certain effort, push or pull. But this is equipment. So how as if it were manual handling alone. Mechanical assistance. Mechanical assistance that's the other name that is used. Okay, it involves the use of mechanical aids to assist the manual handling operation by lightening the load. Right? How does cement stick mo kiribi? So it's not motho. You understand? Kiriba ha itsamaise. Ya tsamaiswa ke motho. Me effort e motho ya apply a tsamaisa kiriba e pegeliselo. Ha go tshwana le hane kiriba e seo gore motho ile na tshwana go ra tshweletse load e. Ke se re se buang go. Ke se go te manually operated load handling equipment, right? Kana mechanical assistance. It lightens the load, it hokotsa the risk. So this assistance is in the form of following tools. It in the form of simple tools like the lifting hook. This one's a BMC. So it's about BMC. That's a lifting hook, right? The tongue. The tongue most the brain mo ita go irisa mo ka rata mo tshwara nama ntse o thena nama mo standing hore o sa dirisa for go skasha go go telle yana mo grab nama ya like this go go telle ya go ntse nkare yunyana kana nkare finyana o yunyana again like that. The wheelbarrow, the sack track, the balance track, the platform track. Platform track is lot exactly like last falana. How can I level the trolley that's falana? It's a flat. They are different from Zaspa. It's a flat. body box also. That's an example of a platform track. Platform means flat, right? Roller tracks and chutes. The chutes ke mongare lift. But go go nyane le box nyana now. Let's say you have a multi-story building. Mo le kona le di kitchen, mo kitchen alo le ga gantse e occupy le four floors. So you can install a chute for a but mo kitchen ba gona go move dilo up and down between those kitchens. You understand what I'm saying? So that what's ya pele ke plate nyana o tsenya plate mo teng na ke go kana ke wisa go godimo. A ba the spice ka ba go tsentsa go ba just like ona lo re motho a tswe ka le bati at the stairs kana tsena mo lifting. Just use the chute. Rale mo go teng di pallet truck. Pallet truck ke mo lo go teng go teng go se fala. Mo itelang go tsholetsa di pallet. Di pallets ke ra di crate at this di planka tse itela di baile this boxes. Go tshwanetsa le cement la go tsa di bele cement se le sentsia gona le go lotsana ena ngare foroko nyana ena le foroko tse pidinyana le maotona nyana ga gare yana mena le di giara nyana yana go lotsana te kgwedi ke motho wa gore metsala ba tsenya mo phaleteng ele a ba riana a ba tsholetsa that thing a ba jeka ka gono go mola ba go gaela ya. That's a pallet truck, okay? Rena le di hoists ke mo go tsholetsa ngare crane but go dirisa operator ke motho go tsholetsa load yana gona atasha load mo o huka load mo gono o tsholetsa ka cable yana o ntsha ka habisa ka. So the hazards tse le di tsamaelana le manually handling at the manually operated load handling equipment. Incorrect use. But what's the resistance? Overloading o tsenya more weight than that thing can carry. Or carrying unstable loads, right? Pushing and pulling a trolley or truck. When you push a trolley, that is a hazard there. The risk of hitting pedestrians with the load, right? Lack of maintenance. Those are the equipment, they are maintained. They are oil, they change amount, they spring, janja. How this is imagine, I'm sure some of you have experienced this. Yaga di trolley tsa spa tse dingwe tse dingwe trolley tsa showpiece tse dingwe ha ro wa kharme tsa ro wa kwa yone yakwa. Why? That's because of higher maintenance, and so it becomes hazardous. Imagine like what some customers do. They get in shops le bana. So imagine ngwana le la trolley ntseng ya la sa cause ke ngwana, right? Aba ya khormetse e pegile dilo ka be tena ya direction is la go thula batho kana a go thula dilwana tsa batho. You see? So lack of training in proper use. Bona batho ba operate ndutse ba sa itse go di dirisa, right? Ba sna training, ba se competent. That's a hazard. Uneven flow surfaces. Ga ntse ke bua mo double flow is step ya kana is step at this way kana this way. Imagine ata bugila sa itse flow ya ka phela track sa tsere ya step wa thula gona ha load ya hetelela kana tabeta e rampa gona ha lobe di thologo. You see? Poor lighting conditions. It's like light. If there's not enough light, sometimes you can hit something because I was born because I go bona holy go talk a space, right? Did you both France ke shop it's a big shop, but how can level as finally space ha gare ga why go letela di those trolleys, those pallet trucks, the forklift di gona go hita mo shopo wa bona. Imagine di shop tsa ma China ka di cramped ka teng, right? Some of these equipment are here so there's no space in that hazard. Le go talk the last hazard, lack of supervision. It's supervised. These kind of techniques, they should be supervised. This kind of operations, they should be supervised. When somebody is lifting something, there should be a supervisor there who is competent in that particular operation. Okay, so more what do you call this? Manually operated load handling equipment. Now we are talking about powered load handling equipment, and it's lori ke bo khotha mo re itirisa ke re tshwana le dikolo to ba batini tata twing da itirisa, right? So every lifting operation that is lifting or lowering of a load shall be properly planned by a competent person. It shall be appropriately supervised, and it shall be carried out in a safe manner. How is it carried out in a safe manner? Because the supervisor is there supervising, making sure that the work is being carried out in a manner that the plan stipulated. Remember, how to plan you, right? So there are 4 general requirements. It's lifting operations. Okay. Remember, we are talking about powered. Okay, powered. The ones which have engines. Okay, these are equipment that have engines in them. So to lift loads. So people just get in there, press a button, move something. So general requirements for lifting operations. Number one, you must use a strong, stable equipment, suitable equipment. The equipment should be suitable. Use a crane where you need to use a crane. Use a forklift where you need to use a forklift. Don't use a forklift for an operation that you need to use a crane for. That's using a lifting equipment, an unsuitable lifting equipment in an operation, which is dangerous. And that equipment should be strong in regards to the task that it's doing, in regards to the load that is handling, that it's lifting. It should be strong. It should be stable. Okay? Equipment should be positioned and installed correctly. For equipment, they already install, like the cranes. Some cranes, just like scaffolds, right? You eat a little piece around a crane, then you prepare a site, a place on the site, you erect the thing, you install it. In a lift equipment, body tower crane. That's called a tower crane, right? How these are lifting equipment do not exceed the SWL. SWL. The SWL is the safe working load. Okay, safe working load. The safe working load basically carrying capacity. Yeah, that equipment. The equipment when we rate or a crane, you got 30 tons. Don't make it lift 35 tons. And lift 30 tons. How you are exceeding the SWL? You are risking that equipment failing. Why? Because the weight is too much for that equipment. It was not designed, it was not engineered to lift those kind of loads. Lifting operations must be planned, supervised, and performed in a safe manner by competent people in a country, right? So there are 4 elements to any lifting operation. These elements being any lifting or mechanical handling operation in a little hazards. But there are 4 elements. There are 4 things that are in any lifting operation, in any load handling operation. These elements, the first element, the equipment itself, the handling equipment, the equipment itself that you are using to handle the load itself. That's the first element. The second element is the load that you are going to handle using the equipment. Remember? The third element is the workplace, where this operation is being carried out. The fourth one is the workers that are involved in this lifting operation. What are their experience? What is their qualifications? Okay? And what is their health status like? Are they drunk? Are they fine? Because some of these things are very dangerous. Okay? So mechanical handling equipment must be equipment, the first element. Or it's not to handle a load. It must be capable of lifting or moving that load. It's not equipment thing. Fault free. It's not matter. It's well maintained. It's history. Ya di inspection. It's super equipment. Ya inspectiwa. Labo hello ling inspector kema. The hazards say no already the tsamana equipment. Rena lebo go thulana batho ba kana ba thula equipment kana thula batho. Rena injury personal injury re gona go arise from the people who are directly involved with the machine, who are actually working with the machine. They can get personally injured by what? By being trapped in moving parts, right? Something like a crane. Crane is to go engineering or something, so anything can happen. The load, that's the element that would be it. What do we look at under the load? The load, it should be prepared for transportation. Load, packaging, store, it's safe enough for it. For whatever is being done to the load, it should be prepared for that transportation, or reduce a possibility of accidents. Imagine the eye channel, this steel frames, right? The eye channel. From the ground, right? What if imagine in a situation where there are tenements that will do their hearts? they become dangerous. So something to secure such that like at home during the lifting operation, they won't have this one. They will sure had na horo wa go betsa batho. Wa wana go soma dia go betsa batho. So what are the hazards of the load? Usually the hazards key the nature of the load, or is it what is the substance being transported? Is it a flammable substance? Is it an explosive substance? Is it a hard substance? Is it a sharp substance? Is it an airborne substance? Is it an oxidizing substance? Right? Because if it's explosive, it can explode. If it's flammable, it can yasha. If it's oxidizing, it can yasha. The security of the load, that's the other hazard. How secure is the load? How secure is the load? The stability of the load. How stable is the load? The other element, the workplace. It should be the workplace. The load and the people. In the working environment, where these lifting operations are going to be done, make sure staff, but separate from not just staff who visitors, anyone who is a person who's qualified as people, separate them. Okay, so designer kaganya site we design e plan ka mokgwa le gore moalo wa mo site o plan ka mokgwa le gore batho ba heta ko load iko di load di ko go lift one thing ba go lift wa ko ha gona ha batho ha gona hape ha le batho ba amana teng le di load tsa gona jalo. Why? Because tabo go tsa ne risk ya gore batho ba go bale. Imagine for example you had tower crane. Maybe you are erecting a skyscraper, right? A tall building, tower crane, a car, more lefty, kana imo east side, right? You can relocate the passage, right? Relocate the passage, design the passage, the walkway, the pathway. It's about to move from the north to the west and the south. Baska hitela, hotel the baska baba hita to the east side. Go on the tower crane day. The lifting operations dira halati. Hoto ajaro har o ba har lo hai element abo hero the employees involved and the people involved in the lifting, the actual operator itself, you operate that the baba operator they will be handling the load by balance the supervisors, anybody and everybody involved in the lifting operation. What are we to do to kabo, right? Any other person is not involved, Kana is not supposed to use the equipment, Kana is not properly trained and competent in the safe use of that equipment, should not be allowed to use that equipment. That's the first thing. And any other person who's not supposed, Kana who's not part of that team you never to buy lift that gym, they should not be there. They should not be found there, because something happen, they might get a chance. There's a chance that they might get injured. So we want to minimize the risks involved. They were supposed to be there in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? And make sure the people lifting, who are in the lifting operation, they are qualified, they are competent. In competence, they are both qualified. They have the qualifications for that, for whatever it is responsibility that they are doing. They also have the experience, the relevant experience. Okay, and that lifting operation should be done under supervision. There should be supervisors. So this is what you should do under this element. So the guides are powered load handling equipment or lifting equipment. And the conveyor belts, conveyor system in elevators, lift, forklift trucks, and the overhead crane. Overhead crane is a morufu. It's a morufu. A mount your morufu. A mount your morufu. And that's what I did from the ground. Those are overhead cranes. Now the mobile jeep crane. Mobile jeep crane ki mongara tarakam. We tell what is called a boom. Let's go na le extend yana. Bogon na le hukunya na ye kono sharadi. Me traka ya thing in kolo sana le kono move ya. That's a mobile jeep crane. Tower crane. Na le the lift the hoist. Na le passenger lifts. Na le lifting ropes. And jalo. So other hazards associated with lifting, powered lifting equipment, hazards associated with cranes, hazards associated with conveyors, hazard associated with forklifts. What are the dangers that come from here? Loose clothing. If you are putting on loose clothing you want to trip like the moving parts. You understand? You want to hook your nail, hit the you understand? Impact against overhead systems. For the overhead crane, but have an amount of Komara. Baliban, Mutokan Holland Mutokan or Lebanon, if it's too close, he gets hit. Contact with hazards, manual handling hazards, noise and vibration, motor from this equipment, vibration that comes from those who are operating the machines themselves. I could be vibrating like this. Overturning, right? Overloading, collisions, uneven road surfaces, overhead obstructions, loss of load, or something, inadequate maintenance. The equipment has a maintenance and they want to fail because I using this equipment as a platform. Especially with forklifts, it's very common. Go build as well. Forklift. That's dangerous. JCB and bucket JCB, especially builders, they like doing that. Masons, but this is brick masons. That's inadequate use of a machine or abuse a machine. Speeding, right? Poor visibility around the load in the work area. The operators are burning the load around the load in the work area. Pedestrians on the roadway. Dangerous staking and a de-staking technique, whereby the load, whatever you are carrying, let's take carrying passengers. This could be a disciplinary offense. I harass. You understand? Battery charging, right? Battery for these things. Fire, there's the risk of fire. Lack of driver training. Economic hazards. Exhaust fumes, foundation failure, rough foundation, especially the crane didn't foundation, that foundation failure, crane collapse. Structural failure of the crane. The structure of the crane, and then a certain component the way fail, the entire thing fails. Incorrect signals. Signals are the banksman. Banksman not about a handy signal. Because a guide, the operator in the crane, go left, go right, raise a boom, lower the load, because so if that person don't have the signal, I had the wrong signal. Can I interpret the signal, wrongly? Who knows what might happen? Failure of the jeep ran that anything can happen. Okay, so that is that, guys, about work equipment. So any questions, forward those questions in WhatsApp, forward those questions in Google Chats, forward those questions in the classroom, just Google Classroom. So thanks for your time, and cheers.